Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Smoke Girl Podcast. My name is Alexis Armstrong, your host. Nice to meet you. The Smoke Girl Podcast is a place to celebrate and highlight women, trans women, and non-binary folk working within STEM and trade occupations. So please tune in, take a break, and join us. We are on Smoko. And today it's an honor to be joined by Julie Lawton, who is the CEO at Julie Lawton Design Build and GLGC luxury custom home builder. She is the largest female-owned design build company in the US, which is absolutely incredible. She has over 30 years of experience. She has a podcast. She is doing an online course. She specializes in beach homes and luxury properties. She has a bunch of famous properties. She's a licensed general contractor. Like, honestly, the list goes on and on and on. So, Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to have this conversation. It's an honor.
Thank you, Alexis. I'm so happy to be here.
It's an honor speaking with you. I've been a fan for a while, and I was wondering if we could maybe start at the very, very beginning, because you started in construction and you've been working in the industry for like 30 years before going into design. I know your background is originally interior design, and then you transitioned from this to becoming a luxury custom home builder. And I was wondering how that happened and what that story looks like.
Well, I'll take you way back to when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I can draw. And I'm also a drummer. I'm a musician. I draw. I played the pianos and the drums, but I'm a drummer, and then I'm a draftsman. So, and I'm a golfer. I got these things. And I played tennis and I was a lifeguard. But the artist side of me, I'm an artist. So I really did start with architecture in college. Did landscape architecture, and then ended up interior design, which is not decorating. It is how humans function in the space, the whole ergonomics of our bodies and our feelings and everything we're doing and our emotions in a shelter or a dwelling. So the whole thing is how humans function in their space, their home space, their office space, their shelter. So that's the whole thing. And then after working with the top 5 developers in New York City and standing in the dirt with the drawings, knowing you can't get anything done unless you're standing in the dirt with the men. That's back in the 80s when I wore high heels and skirts. So that was interesting. So I realized then that this is what I am born to do, is stand in the dirt and get shit done. So I didn't become a contractor and get my license until 10 years later because I was kind of like lazy about it and nervous about actually taking the test and becoming the contractor and taking the man's position, because working with the men wasn't working because I was more qualified as a designer architect and maybe as an organized person. And then my clients would fire their contractor after I started the jobs. So assuming the man's position and role, I was always doing that. I mean, another little tip, my dad wanted boys and got me and my sisters. So we grew up with men. We grew up, there's no barriers were given to us. You got to be a girly girl. You got to do this. You got to do that. There was no barriers. And I didn't have any fear. I was just freaked out about taking the test. And then I took the contractor's test and I got a 98. And the ladies said that I took the test faster than anybody that ever took that test. And I'm like, damn, I was so nervous about it. But I waited because I was procrastinating. And then I finally did it. And that changed my life, basically becoming the contractor. The design was already done. It's in my DNA. It's so easy for me.
I love that. I love that story of being like, I'm an artist, first off. Like, I love how you also listed like 10 plus hobbies and professions and a bunch of things that you could have done. But like, to be like the one main thing is that you're an artist, and the design has always come into, that's always been their constant.
Yeah, it's a constant. I'm a sensitive artist, but then I have both sides of the brain, so you don't want to mess with me either because I have no patience or tolerance for nonsense.
That's a good one
too.
No, it's a good 1-2 punch. That's honestly what you need to get shit done. I love that was also like contractor in the mud, and that's where you wanted to go, and you did it. I love that the test was just like quick and flying colors and the fastest that they've ever seen it. That's pretty beautiful. And like, you could see kind of from your story that your life did completely change after that, right? Like that you got your general contractor's license, and then from there, you're now this wonderful career of building luxury custom homes and doing both the design and the design of the space and the actual construction of it, the build. Like, it is a beautiful thing. And I know that this is probably going to be a non-answer. I bet you don't really have this, but like, could you describe a typical day and like your role as the CEO of the largest female-owned design build company? Like that's crazy. That crazy in itself, Julie, is like that's your stat is absolutely wild. Wild, wild, wild.
Well, it started with me and one framer and maybe 2 or 3 helpers. And then now I have 30 employees and 6 of them are like assistants. So 3 office admins, counting money and billing and not screwing up, and 3 project managers. So before that, those 6 people, I did that all myself. So at 60, I decided to delegate. The average day for me is I'm ridiculously organized. So I have a checklist, and it's a checklist of every job and what needs to be done on every job. And then it's a checklist for every human on the job and then what they need to do. And then it's a checklist of my office, training them how to do what I do and keep the wheels turning and the ball rolling. So we have Zooms every day about what are we doing, and everybody has this checklist. So I'm constantly giving orders. So I was born an A-type personality, and I'm also an ENTJ on the Myers-Briggs test. So that means a general. If you look up ENTJ, there's only 10% are that personality, but we're just generals. And there's deadlines. So I make a checklist every single day, and we've completed every single day. And then there's a team helping me because I used to run all the jobs
yourself,
and do all the paperwork. And now I still run the jobs, but I try not to touch the paperwork, but I still run their jobs. But then there's people under me running their jobs. And it's a huge coordination because we have 30 employees and basically 30 subs. So it's managing the 60 people a day. And what are they doing? Like I always tell my guys, wake up every morning. When are they going to be there? When are they going to be done? What's the excuse?
Yeah, exactly.
It's management of humans. And I have this thing about being nice and respecting people because that's karma. So my men and my employees don't quit. I mean, they never leave, and my subs never leave. We disrespecting anybody, no matter where they are on the totem pole. So that's a whole nother thing about my magic and my team, that my guys have been with me 10, 20, and 30 years.
It's beautiful.
So no one leaves.
No, that's amazing. I love that. I love that you guys grow together. And like, I thought one thing that was kind of cool is I could see the general of, yes, like organization and like getting everything done, but like your story of how part of it you were on every single aspect, right? From like the design to the build to like, it just sounds like you have kind of worked every single position before you grew, and that you know the entirety of your business, and that you've done every single position and every single task. And so that's really cool to see it grow now. And I love that you're like, in my 60s, I'm going to grow it again and double it. And you can see that growth and see that breadth of work. Do you guys have multiple projects? Like how many projects are you running right now at the same time?
Well, there's 17.
Oh my
God. There's probably it's because we have like a little maintenance program going on with a lifetime maintenance. So it's like 5 little jobs or just little things we're doing. But we usually have 7 on the drafting table in design, in the design company, which is JLDB. And then we have 7 going in the construction company, which is JLGC. And I keep those 2 corporations separate because legally I'm a designer and an architect on professional liability, and then I'm a contractor with general liability, but they're tied together. But it's 2 companies side by side, and it's usually 7 and 7. It's always the same, but the jobs are getting bigger. So instead of doing like in 2015, I went from 1 million to 5 million in sales, and then last year I went from 5 million to 10 million in sales. So it jumps and leaps and bounds. So that's what I meant by growing. I just decided to double and it happens. So
I love that. That's absolutely incredible. And congratulations to that doubling into that growth rate. Like that's beautiful in itself. And that's really cool. I wanted to maybe before we step into your designs and step into some of your projects that you've done and working in construction, I was wondering if we could talk about a little bit about getting your general contractor's license, if we could take a step back, because I read this article that you were like, this was the greatest challenge in your career. And I mean, you just mentioned you were nervous about it, of taking that exam and like maybe procrastinating there. Could you kind of walk through that experience and why this designation was so important to you, and like what doors did it open since? Like you can see it's changed your life, but how did you know to be like, okay, my general contractor, that's what's going to take me to this level?
Well, I was doing that. Like I said, clients would hire me as their designer or to design their kitchen, and then those would turn into remodels. And they were usually working with contractors that weren't licensed or insured. And So it was just like a shit show.
Mm.
So they would fire them, and then I'd work with them direct and clean up their mess and pull their permits, in a kind of an owner builder capacity. But that didn't work either, because you can't control the client, and you can't control the money, and they still did crazy stuff. So getting the contractor's license was the only solution to control the situation and prevent the nightmare. Then I procrastinated because, not that I'm lazy, of course, that's the opposite, but I was it's just the whole idea. I didn't really sink in my brain, because I'm a designer and a female and an architect. I just didn't sink in my brain to slide into that role, because it's sort of like the girl joining the football team. I mean, there's no girls on professional football. I kind of had that thing about, I still had that old school thing about, the contractor. And then I thought, I've never swung a hammer, but I did lay concrete and drive a Bobcat with my dad and do construction when I was young with handyman stuff he did. But the point is, I just had this little mind thing about, just because I was like, maybe I don't know what I need to know, because I'm not a guy, or maybe because I didn't stand in the field and swing the hammer. I was in the field drawing and designing and fixing things. So I had this little fear in my brain. But when I took the test, I realized that all the stuff on the test wasn't what I studied for. It was all the stuff I learned standing in the dirt in New York City during construction. It was so weird. It's like, damn, I studied for 6 weeks and I knew all this stuff already.
I already had this.
It was like, it was weird. Like what's concrete slump and all this weird stuff that came back to my memory. But anyway, I must have been paying attention, because it was construction stuff, and I wasn't, but I think the barrier of the woman and the man's world was probably subconsciously there, because when I first became the contractor, of course, I was younger and I have the hair and the boobs and, and I was skinnier, and all I got is harassed, does she know? Because they think you're stupid because you have boobs,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And you're like, why are we even going there? This is ridiculous, but it's true.
Yeah. So it's automatic when you're a young girl and you're kind of nice, you get it. It's crazy. So I just put on my, Julie, the contractor face. And for some reason, when I wear the cowboy boots and the jeans, and I have an attitude about air of confidence, that gets them. So I'm good. I mean, I did purposely not wear makeup, and I toned down anything as far as, the girly side, if you call it. I don't really have a girly side, but you just have to tone down and just do business. And I remember the way I was treated was curiosity, and does she really know anything? Because I was pretty young when I did it. But then the respect came because I did know my shit. And so the respect, because men are fair. Like, if you know your stuff, and they're fair. That's all they care. And then managing men, they just want to show up to work and not have any drama. So it's kind of easy, actually, and it's kind of a relief, because working with men is kind of easier than managing maybe everybody. But it's funny, but I fell right into it. How's that? But the beginning was challenging, and I had to put up with all the crap, and it didn't bother me, because I knew it was them, not me.
Yeah. It's not about, exactly. It's not your problem. It's their problem, and it's a them problem. And that's kind of cool that, like, I'm happy you did make that decision. And how did it feel as soon as you did your GC kind of contracting exam? Did it feel like all of a sudden that you're like, yeah, okay, this is nothing, this is easy, walk in the park? Or like, it did take a little bit of like challenge of dealing with men on site?
It took some time. It took some time, because I already knew quite a bit, but then when I was the GC, I really had to know. So when I took the test that day, I remember I drove out of there. It was in San Diego, and I remember having this wonderful feeling and so happy, and I could tell my world was changed. But when you become a contractor, the first thing you do is get your hand photographed and printed at the sheriff's station, like the next day.
Okay.
So you know that you could be arrested if you do something wrong and go to jail. So it's a new game. So then you get your new insurance, then you get all these responsibilities. So it's a whole game changer, literally, like responsibility wise. So that was fun. And then I had to learn all the stuff about that and all about the rules of the contracting. So that was the learning curve, is just doing it right. But then I had to learn more about the construction. So my head framer, who was my first employee, was probably my best coach. And then a couple years into me having my license, I think about 5 years into it, I said, you know what? I need to learn to frame for real. So I put on the bags and I framed for a couple months, but I'll never do it again. That nail gun's heavy. But I know how to do everything. Yeah.
I love that. That's a constant though. Like you could see that of just like constantly learning, adapting and evolving and being like, okay, what's next? And like, what do I have to do to get to that next level? And where do I want to go?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's pretty fantastic. I also read in another article is when you talked about design, I thought that this was kind of cool. Is I think it goes back to what you say of being like, yeah, I've always been maybe type A and really organized. Is you said great design starts with a good plan. Like what traits do you think are the most valuable with design and building? Like we've talked a little bit about design is designing for a space and for people, but like as a person, as a GC and also a designer, what do you think is the most valuable traits?
Well, my whole thing is all starts with a good plan came about, just so you know, because one of my elderly clients, she had worked with contractors before because she was in real estate. And she goes, none of them ever have a plan. You're the first one that has a plan. I go, I'm going to put that on the side of my truck. So that's how that started, by the way.
Mm.
So the most valuable trait is having a plan, but the most valuable part of the process and the whole thing for me is actually personalizing it for each person, because most architects want to design something that makes them stand out. They don't really get it personalized. And remodels are the same way. It's hard to remodel because you got to customize an old dog of a home and then give that a facelift and then customize it for the homeowner. So the art of it for me is actually listening to the client and getting their dream home built for their lifestyle. So that's my most important thing I do. I don't torture them with, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. This is trendy. No, I actually listen to them and force them like therapy, admit what they like. And then if it's a couple, they have to agree.
Yeah.
Because we can't move on until they agree. And then we go to each step.
Honestly, I think that's the perfect answer. And like, I couldn't agree more with that, but that is probably very rare that you come in with a designer or with a builder to be like, I have this idea that I want to make as the designer. I want to make this space look like that. Like that's probably very rare to listen to the client to be like, okay, what do you like? How do you function within a space? What's important to you? How are we going to create that dream? That's pretty cool. Is there a moment that you're like, okay, this is where the plan is finally starting to take shape, that you're like, yes, it's all going to plan. Everything's working perfectly. Like, how does that step from planning to execution move for you?
Well, when we're drawing the plans in the beginning, the floor plans, the client can't really tell, and sometimes they can't read the plan. So then I do the elevations and the color 3D, and then I can see in their eyes that they get it. Because I read the client the whole time, because I'm in charge of making sure they get it, because if they don't, we're in trouble. So it's kind of fun when they sign off on the plan and they actually get it, and then we walk through the space and they can see what I see, because I see it the day I walk in before I draw it. That's how I get it, because I see it, I visualize it. It comes to me. It comes to me. Yeah. So that's automatic. The house talks to me. So then when they get it, I was like, yes. And then I can just go do the contracting and build it and then go have fun. Like all my design work and all the hard work for the client is over after I pull the permit. So that's the fun part when they get it.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. I could see that being like very, very fulfilling of like all of a sudden seeing the client see it and be like, okay, yeah, this is my space.
You can feel it because you can see it in their eyes. You can tell they get it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Like you're building people's homes, which is gorgeous in itself, right? Like very powerful.
Yeah, it's like I'm changing the course of their life, how they live in their home. You change their dynamics to fit them. You customize it to fit them. It's like an energy shift.
Oh, totally.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I could see it. Like a good space and a good, well-designed space for you, I think makes a complete difference in your day-to-day in your life. And I know that you've also done some pretty crazy, very, very cool, famous designs. Like I have them here that they're like the Georgian Hotel in Santa Monica, the Friars Club in New York City. And then the coolest one, in my opinion, just because it's probably the only one that I've seen, I haven't gone to either the other two, is the Wallace Neff home from Monsters in Law. And that's crazy that was your project and that was what you designed. Is there a project that sticks with you or is a favorite? Is it one of those projects? Is it a new one? And if so, why?
Well, I have this passion for Art Deco, and if I could be born again and live in the 30s because of the fashion and the architecture, there was that little time period in the 20s, early 20s. So the Art Deco hotel, the elements of it was still there. So it was so cool to be in there and see the elements from the 1920s, 1928. It was kind of dreamy. And then I designed all the furniture, true Ruhlman Desky elephant
Cool.
chairs and the whole thing to match. Now, the new owners, what was 20 years ago, or probably already, the new owners ripped it all out and put in the modern stuff. So
Oh,
they didn't keep it, but I got it. It was in there for a while with the original owner, the guy that died owning it probably 15, 20 years ago. So that was cool. But my favorite homes are the historical ones like the Wallace Neff, because when I walked in that kitchen after my client bought it, the lady that owned it for years had never touched the original. The kitchen was for the help. It was cupboards. It was cupboards, not custom cabinets, cupboards, and it was all closed off. So it was neat to see the original 1920s, 30s, plain
design.
old, very simple kitchen. And then we just turned it into this glorious thing. But I just love historical and transferring things to the way they should be and the quality of today's standards. And my other favorite home is the one I did for Tony Baxter, who's the legend of Disney. And Tony is a famous Imagineer who worked right after Walt Disney. I think he got his job there when he was 18. He's 74 now. And he designed the Paris Disneyland, and he's into Tudor and English. So we started working on his home 6 years ago, and we've never left.
Oh, wow.
Because we actually do high-end custom, and we do all the gilding and the carving and everything that Disney people do.
Wow.
Because nobody does that
Yeah.
in residential really anymore. So in the gold gilding, everything he wanted, we could do it. He couldn't believe I could do it, but then I would just produce it. And I produced carvers from Ireland and England because they were my friends for 30 years because I'm in that business. But it was funny. So we haven't never left his house. We're still there.
Oh, I love that. Like that, honestly, that was going to be my next question of like a follow-up of it is these techniques are so specialized and these homes are so specialized. And like, if you're talking about a historic home, how do you start that restoration? Like, do you go back through kind of archives? Do you already have that knowledge to be like, this is what a Tudor house looks like? And then how do you bring in those old techniques of being like, okay, this is how we do ornate gilding and ornate carving? Like, where do you go from there?
Well, I have the carvers and I have the faux finishes and the painters that are trained to do that. But what you really do is you go back in the archives in the books. Yes. So if you really want to get crazy about it and find something we can't figure out, we'll just go back to the books of the architecture and the carvings and we'll pick from there. But in my case with Tony Baxter, he did all the drawings, and he would build us little scale models of what we wanted overnight and then present it the next morning. That's his thing.
I love
it was
that.
easy. He would draw the vision and then I would turn it into architecturally engineered complete. So buildable drawings, like the technical aspect. He would draw it maybe not quite to scale almost, but then I would make it work.
Bring it back to architecture and design, and then you could build it. Like that's a really crazy walkthrough.
I had to get the guys to understand how to build it. That's the ticket, because you can't make it. The paper can't come to life until you get the craftsmen involved. And working with them and guiding them is a talent.
Oh, I could imagine that. This is a little bit of a switch, and I know that it's all of a sudden kind of going into a different topic, but I do want to ask you about this because I think it's so important. I think it's so topical, and I just think it's amazing what you're doing. And something that you're very, very passionate about is affordable housing, and you're currently lobbying and working with local leaders of the UN Association Ambassador of Affordable Housing in Southern California to increase affordable housing. Could you kind of maybe walk through what this actually means? What does this entail? And then what the public should know about this initiative and how can they help if they would like to?
Well, the United Nations Association is a lot of people who care about the 17 things that matter, which is housing, homelessness, climate. And if you look them up, there's 17 things that were founded by Eleanor Roosevelt, and they're still plugging away at them. And each community has the United Nations Association. And the cool part about it, which I didn't realize, is the majority of the members are 20-something. They're young.
Yeah.
Really young people, passionate. So I'm involved a little bit in the climate meetings and discussions. And I just introduced our president of the United Nations to the Laguna Beach Climate Division. And so we're making a lot of headway. What it is a lot of the things are out there that can be done, but the people doing them just need to get together, agree, and then make a plan, and then set goals and show the accomplishment. But homelessness, everybody kind of knows what to do, but there are people all over, so they kind of just need to come together. So what the United Nations Association wants to do is do a dashboard for each city of what's going on with all these things and track them and show the progress and what really does get accomplished by doing the right thing or the positive thing. So my job is bringing awareness and education and then working on bringing that together. So solving homelessness is one thing and solving the climate is another thing, but affordable housing, like there's the affordable housing for homeless and their transitional living once they decide to go through the programs, and then there's affordable housing for low income, and then there's affordable housing for first time home buyers. So there's all these levels of it. So right now I'm kind of focusing on like cities. Maybe they get a football field of property donated and they put 50 affordable houses on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm kind of focusing on that to solve immediate problems that way. And then the residential, that's a no-brainer. Tiny homes all day long, love them.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, they're amazing.
But I have a company that approached me about, it looks like a mobile home, but it's very modern and it's produced for like $30,000.
Oh,
and it's a home,
amazing.
but it's really like a Winnebago.
Yeah.
You know, a very efficient Winnebago, but it could put it anywhere. So I'm working on that too.
Oh, that's amazing. That could be a huge impact. And like, yes, it's very like it's accessible, it's cheap to build, which is wonderful. It sounds quick to build. It sounds like it would be like an instant kind
quick is the thing.
Like
yes.
no brainer solution and change. And that's wonderful that you're doing all that work with the UN and solving something so big as affordable housing with kind of community support or with women in construction, women in trades. Do you guys need anything? Like, what should the public know about this initiative?
For the affordable housing, the main thing is to click on the United Nations Association and join a group.
Okay.
There's also, your local government should have something going on, your local city, and then you could join or any volunteer group. It's about awareness and how you can help. But the local government is supposed to help that way. And then as far as us contractors building tiny homes and affordable homes, that's the next thing. And whether you're going to provide them like a mobile home or just build a tiny home, I think that's the next thing, because the housing shortage is there, and it's about getting the land. So I think the best thing is just to tap into the United Nations Association and find out where your local group is to ask. And even the Rotary Club has a group of young people. They're focused on climate, but they also do affordable housing. But it's funny, I didn't know the Rotary Club actually talked about this stuff.
No, I didn't know either.
Local Rotaries.
That's amazing. Okay, so the local Rotaries, which is probably accessible for almost anybody listening, because I feel like there's a local Rotary Club in almost every single small town or big city, and then tapping into the UN network and just supporting to join an organization. That's fantastic. No, it's pretty incredible.
Easy with the United Nations because they're everywhere. Yeah. Yes, they're everywhere.
Yep. No, that's pretty incredible. And it's a very noble thing. And I love that that's something that you guys are lobbying and currently working for. And it made me so happy seeing that. And just thank you for doing that. It's pretty incredible.
I think it's amazing too, because it's needed. And, gosh, it's a big need to fill. And a lot of people forget about, because everybody's into all the big homes and all the custom and all the glamour and all the spend the money, spend the this. And it's kind of wasteful in a way. There has to be a balance, in my opinion. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more about like having that balance of spaces. And like, I agree. Like, I don't think it has to be a glitz and glamour all the time. Sometimes they're beautiful in like an architectural design build, but people just need homes, and they need homes that are accessible and available to them. And
yeah, even if it's tiny, because look at the college students, and young couples, where do they live? I mean, you could barely afford the rent if you live in a city where you work. It's impossible. So, yeah.
No, completely. I really, really do appreciate that. I think it's wonderful. Julie, one thing that I wanted to talk about is, again, a little bit of a switch, but it's more, you've been in this industry for 30 years. So you have a crazy amount of experience. And again, you have this crazy stat of being like the largest female owned design build firm in the US, which is just incredible. And I wanted to look and really tap into your experience and your breadth of experience of being like, how has the industry changed since you started? And then where would you like us to go? Where do you think the future of the industry is going to go, in your opinion?
Well, the design build in general, it's a male dominated industry. And I think there will be more females, because hopefully there'll be more by the time I'm done, because that little outreach is happening pretty good. I can see it on the internet in a lot of states, and a lot more women are popping up. And I think I know 20 women now that do what I do technically. Maybe some don't do the design, but I just hope that there's more equality across the playing field and more women see that they can be good at this job or these jobs, engineering, architecture, contractor, building, just as good as the men are. There's no barriers here. It's just the idea of doing it because, there's more and more every day, but it's still a minority, which cracks me up. So you would think there'd be more women that just do what I do off the bat these days. So that's what I'm thinking would be cool because not that, women are better at certain things than men, but we are better possible communicators and multitaskers, let's say. But the point is, there shouldn't be that barrier of a man's job versus a woman's job. And hopefully that changes, especially in our field, because, I'm doing it and I'm living proof it can be done successfully and happily and with no drama. So
totally, yeah.
It should be more people should try it.
That it's a wonderful career and come join you. And I think that's a wonderful answer. And I couldn't agree more of like that there shouldn't be these barriers. I think you touched on it that like you were like, yeah, for me, my success rate was that I never thought there was a barriers. I grew up and this was just something that I was gonna do. It was never even a question of being like, do I deserve to be in this space or am I allowed in this space? Or like I am in this space. What are you talking about? I'm gonna be in the dirt with the mud. Like I'm with the men at this construction.
Yep. I didn't ask permission. I said, I'm here and I'm doing this. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. Because there were guys in the beginning that weren't respectful and had attitude and didn't. There's only a few for some reason. And then there was the ones that would shake my hand like they're asking me to dance, and I knew I couldn't hire them or work with them.
Yeah, you're like absolutely not.
They weren't treating me equal. You're out.
Yeah.
So then I turned up the female power a little more by just more confidence and more hair, because it's really about getting on their level.
Agreed.
But it's funny. It worked though, but it's getting on their level and then eye contact. And I don't know, I got this thing about my personality where no one fucks with me.
No.
So when I'm in the dirt.
I love it. I love the like no one fucks with you attitude of like in the dirt, and like I love coming up to their level and like getting your hair bigger and like almost like putting on not armor, but like just being like, you know what, that's my attitude.
I dream about that. I dream about I put the armor on while I'm driving into the job site. I'm telling you, I do that.
Yeah. No, like I kind of would do the same a little bit when I would step on a mine site, like, or like step on like the drill rig. I would kind of put on to be like, okay, you're going into this environment. Like, let's get ready. It's time to be a boss about this. It's time to like command some respect because it's not going to be given as equally or given as freely. So you have to kind of take it. And I think that that's a wonderful direction if we can go in the future. And like, kudos to you to have that naturally. But I think that like right now, sometimes it's something that it's something that you kind of have to learn along the way. And a lot of women maybe struggle with that when they first start. And
they do.
A follow-up, if we could try to like bottle that like Julie armor of hair and being like, don't fuck with me attitude. Like, I know it came to you naturally, but like, how could other people emulate that if they would like to?
Well, this starts with like yourself first, believe in yourself. Don't listen to others. And do not get around people that are negative and make you second guess because that fear's in your head. It's in all of our heads. And then once you start second guessing and thinking, oh, what if, forget the what ifs. Just do it. Don't hesitate. Just do it and set your goals. It's not really about just believe, like yourself first, and then believe in yourself, and then set your goals and, get your direction and don't waver. And then, failures are stepping stones to success. Or like me, I just drive everybody over with my truck, get out of my way. And, nothing gets in my way of what I need to get done, but I work with people, of course, to get things done, but I have a destination and, it's a thing. It's like goals and plans. It all relates. Your life and floor plans and architectural blueprints are exactly the same. You have a plan.
Yeah. You have a plan and you stick with it. Like, get out of my way. My truck is going one direction and you better not be in the front of
exactly, it. Because we need to get shit done. And it's funny because it's that confidence of really just believing in yourself. Even if you're new or green, you just got to believe in yourself because nothing bad's going to happen. And the more, we're all still learning every single day. Yeah. I mean, I still learning.
Yeah. Me too. No, I think every single person, I don't know one person that knows it right off the get-go. Like that's amazing advice. And thank you, Julie, for that. I love that plan, and I love that truck metaphor of just being like, yeah, let's get shit done.
Exactly. Just do it. Just do it. I think Nike says that, but just do it.
If we could, one thing, like, is there anything of your career or your experience within construction, within design builds, is there anything that you've learned along the way that has been the most like surprising or the most fulfilling aspect of your career? I know we've talked about like failure is the stepping stone to kind of put you in the next direction, and like you never really know what life is going to take from you, and trying something new. But is there anything that's been the most surprising and then the most fulfilling aspect of your career?
What's most fulfilling is clients actually tell me, I can't believe you got my dream home. This is
Oh.
just what I wanted. I have no idea how you did it. But they always say, oh my God, this is exactly what I wanted. But I realize one of my superpowers is listening. And I talk a lot. I never realized, but one of my superpowers is listening, and that's how it works. That's how it makes it work for the client. And I have a ton of patience, which I come off as someone with no patience because I'm the pile driver, but I have a ton of patience because I've learned to calm down a little bit, take a breath, and then let everything come together. You can't force it. Just like if you're looking for a partner, you can't, it's that whole thing of, once you say, I'm open to this and this is what I want, you kind of design it or ask for it, just like projecting, and then it walks in the door.
It does. Yeah. It really does. That is like that is how success works. I love it. I'm just like, yeah, pre-planning and then just kind of letting it go and being like, whatever happens, happens. And like, we're open to anything. And then it comes in and it's exactly how you planned it or wanted it.
You release.
Yeah.
You release the fear and release the control, and then it happens.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love that answer. Julie, I want to talk about two things before we kind of wrap it up because we're almost at time. But I think what's been really cool is just the amount of stuff that you do. And you do a little bit of everything, of lobbying the government, designing custom homes, working with Disney, having a famous home in a movie. Like, just it's crazy. But then added on top of that, two new things that you've done is this wonderful podcast called Julie Layton Living, where you give kind of like an inside scoop and you look at all things design and construction. And I love the way that you do it and you break it down to topics and explain those topics. And it's a really beautiful place for education. What has been the most kind of surprising experience of doing your show and related to running your show? How's that been?
Well, on the amount of people kind of that I mentor in a way, because I've always had the women that say, I want to be you. I want to be you. I wish I would have done that. I'm like, well, why didn't you? I mean, what was stopping you?
Yeah.
But I like the idea that I can be a positive mentor, and give people hope. Because again, I'm living proof. I've survived a lot. I've gone through a lot in my personal life. And, also, and nothing's easy. That's the funny part. And you grow and you get stronger because of it. And then what doesn't kill you makes you stronger for real. So the nice part is that I could put together, I mean, my big thing is my whole life is my design build company, and putting together that 7 simple steps to help people avoid a nightmare. I mean, I kind of like just being the little helper. I like helping people. So I thought it was neat that came about. So that's my thing.
Oh, I love that.
Helping people avoid disaster.
Well, you can see that like it is helping people. Like you can see from listening to your show and like looking at the topics that you cover, you're like, this is not for you. Like you don't need to do this. Like this is truly for other people and for educating and helping them and avoiding common pitfalls and being like, okay, I have 30 years of experience. Let's put it to use and let's give it to the next generation and let's share the wealth a little bit about my knowledge. It's really beautiful to see, but you can see that it's not for you. It's definitely for the community and for helping people.
Thank you. I'm big on giving back because like this whole circle of life, you got to give back, and your teams, you got to give back, and your team's got to be happy. Your clients got to be happy. Everybody's got to be happy equally. It's a whole thing, So, and then you give back and you help, and it all makes it better.
Yeah. I like that balance. And like, you can see it, man. Like you said it at the very beginning of this interview, and you're like, our designers don't leave. Like none of our subcontractors leave. None of our team leaves. Like you give back to your team and they've been there for 30 years. And I think that's a testament to like a giving nature and making sure other people are taken care of. And I think it goes back into why you built homes too, of like, let's design this space for them.
Yes, it is. There's something about that. Like I'm like the energy shifter. I'm
Mm.
helping them shift and change their energy for the better.
Mm, I love that. I love this
Hmm.
kind of like spirituality of this interview and like alignment and like universe and kind of projecting and aligning yourself to where you want to go and then letting go of control and letting yourself take you
That's
there.
what it's about because
Hmm.
that's how you function yourself. And I make up. I get into a home and I know something's bad or you can feel the energy. I
Mm,
burn sage for the client to clear it out for them. I help them. I mean,
yeah.
you know, and before I put the drywall on, just kind of making sure everything's clearing because they buy homes and they're all screwed up and this and that. And you hear stories and yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway,
No, I love
all
it.
that. It's just why not?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. I really, really do. Julie, I wanted to end on one last one. And I think I might know the answer with this because I do know that there's an online course coming up that I'm really excited about and that you've launched, but you've done so much. My big question for you would be what is next? Like, what are your future goals looking like? What are you working on? What's the next chapter? Because again, I think you've done so much. So what does that look like for the next chapter? What are you working on?
Well, the thing is to leave a legacy
Mm,
because I've already kind of proved it can be done by
yes.
women
Existing.
and then anybody in construction. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So no barriers. But to leave a legacy, grow the business so I can do more work and hire more people.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, just continue to build it. Oh my goodness. Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
I love that. I love that
And
growth.
share.
Hmm. I think it came back our entire interview to like, how are you designing things, sharing with the community, sharing with others, helping others with lobbying the government and accessible housing and affordable housing. And then no barriers. There's never been any barriers to you. And because of that, I feel like you've taken on the world and it's been super
Yep.
successful. So that's been amazing. Awesome, Julie. It's really cool.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I love it. The joy comes through and it's been an honor speaking with you and having you on the show and just thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat about your life and what you've done.
I enjoyed it very much and lots of love and good energy to you and all that good stuff. And we should do it again and keep in touch.
I would love that. Honestly, please, whenever you would like to come on the show, you let me know. That would be fantastic. Please don't be a stranger and like just thank you again. It's really an honor. I think what you've done and all the work that you've been able to accomplish is pretty incredible.
Well, thank you. And I'm here to, like I said, set the example and no fear, no barriers. Do it.
Get shit done,
Get
do
out
it.
there and do
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Don't get in the way of my truck. Get out there and try. Oh, absolutely amazing. Julie, thank you so much. And for those listening, this has been the Smoke Podcast. Thank you very much. We will see you next Wednesday. Ta ta for now.